what does it take to get a team to be more consistent, especially from you on the coaching side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things. There's always got to be a high attention to knowing personnel. Oftentimes you don't get a lot of practice time, and so going over a lot of their sets, which you do, but at the end of the day, making sure we know our personnel, who we're going to run off the three-point line, what we're willing to give up. We've got to make sure that there's a high attention to detail there. I think the other piece is, making sure, again, that we continue to encourage our team to be disruptive. I felt like LA moved the ball too easily. And I don't mean disruptive like physicality. I just mean not allowing them to just move the ball wherever they wanted it to. Our ball pressure made it difficult. I thought they did a great job of exploiting matchups, really working, especially with Stevens and Jackson when they had smaller players on them, making sure that their passes were on time, on target, recognizing it early. And we did not do a good enough job of getting them out of there as quickly as we'd like to. But also offensively, their length affected us. Our decision-making wasn't great. We over-penetrated at times. We had some reads that were there that we didn't see. And that's an area we just got to continue to grow.
Well, Sydney and Natasha said you guys fouled too much.
Yep.
Numbers, we could see that. When you see that happening a lot, is it a defensive breakdown so you're late and you foul? What do you feel like thematically led to that happening too often today?
Yeah, today. It's been like all season. I feel a couple things. One, sometimes we're late at the point. We're not moving when the ball moves or moving when our player moves, and so that unnecessarily puts us in rotation. Sometimes we get a little too I don't know, anxious, so to speak. Like if somebody's attacking us, instead of making them hit tough shots over the top of us and living with that, because they're the best players in the world, right? They're going to hit really good shots. We try to finish that play with whether it's a block or whether it's sliding in at the last moment or whatever else. And sometimes we just have to live with knowing that great players are going to make really good plays and don't bail them out by fouling. Maybe we'll get lucky and they'll miss. But there's a lot of things that go into that. At the end of the day, we got to be more disciplined. I didn't feel like we guarded our yard very well. I felt like we had times where we got them going the direction that we wanted to, and we bailed them out by fouling. But they did a good job of continuing to just put their head down and attack us and force us into those fouls.
About needing to lock in despite fatigue or tiredness, and I know it's been 9 games, I believe 18 days. Just how have you seen your players work through that stretch? Yeah, this is a group that's pretty locked in, in terms of their energy, their effort, understanding what we're trying to do. But it takes another gear sometimes. If there's a day where you feel like maybe you're a step slow, our anticipation has to be better. Our activity has to be better. If there's better ball pressure, it gives us an opportunity to make up that step, right? If our activity level is a little bit better and we're anticipating when the ball moves and what action they're going to get into, it gives us a little bit of margin for error for that step that we might be slow. So we have to combat, if there's some physical tiredness, we have to combat that with mental sharpness. And that's a skill that you have to practice, right? That's a skill that we have to practice. We have to exercise it. We've got to continue to get better and grow in it.
In terms of the fourth quarter, they had all but one of their buckets was inside the paint. Was that them just being able to get into the paint and get whatever they want because of that point of attack defense like you were talking about?
Yeah, they had that and 9 free throws. So, I think they just put their head down and started to attack us. They did a really good job of recognizing, when our guards, our small guards got switched on to, whether it's Jackson or Stevens. They also did a good job of executing some of their schemes. I thought some of those screen-to-screener actions that they ran, we've went over for the last 2 days, and so we weren't very disciplined in that. But I felt like they let the game come to them in those moments, and we, on the other hand, really felt pressed in those moments and forced some shots or quick shots and didn't really make them work as much as we could on the defensive end. Yeah, we got to protect our paint.
At all that, you had a look, I think it was airy on that left arc. Was that kind of what you were looking for? Were you good with that shot late?
In which one? Which, on the last timeout or the
Last 30 seconds.
last 30 seconds? Yeah, I mean, I think getting on the three. Yeah, I mean, that was a good look for us. It was a good look for us. We had a look we missed, I think, on Kelsey on a back door on one of our other timeouts. We had a great look with AB in the slip on one of them as well. Even at the end of the game, I know it's tough because Azrae Stevens is on the ball and it makes it really tough. I thought Soph was open over the top. But sometimes when teams play with that physicality and use that length, it causes you to rush a little bit, whether it's rushing a shot, rushing a read. It closes the gap, narrows the gap a little bit more.
In that last minute, last seconds, I mean, what's going through your mind when you get chances? I mean, you did get the ball back. It wasn't like they could monopolize it. You had a few shots, 3 times really, I think, to get a shot at it. You thinking this one's got to go, this one should work, anything like that?
No, just really thinking about execution and what positions we want to put our players in when we're using the timeout. And then while the shot's going up, it's looking to see if it's the high quality shot, if it's a shot that we want to get. I mean, look, there are going to be days where you make shots and miss shots. I mean, that's part of it. I thought, AB had a really good look at the end. And so sometimes it just doesn't fall your way. So we're looking more about execution. I didn't feel like our execution was all that good at the end. I felt like in our reset timeout, it wasn't very good either. And, that's on us, continuing to make sure that we are going over that, as often as possible when we have our practice time and making sure that we're sharp in those areas.
You guys around the losses to them came around a 3-game win streak that you guys felt pretty good about how you played, but those 2 losses kind of shows some inconsistencies for you guys. How do you guys get more consistent as a team? Is that something you can practice? How does that come?
I think it's just like gradually it's going to happen over time. Like we've seen throughout the course of our season, there have been peaks and valleys, but you try to lessen how many valleys there are, and we're trying to get to a point where we're having more peaks. But I think the last 2 games prior to this are more indicative of who we're becoming and the direction that we're going in. But it's not going to be perfect all the time. But in games like this, we just have to have a different level of focus from the start, especially when we know that, a team has already won on our home court. It's like you got to lock in, whether it's fatigue, you're tired, not as focused. Like we just got to check ourselves and one another and make sure that we're really honed in on what we're supposed to be doing so that we can start putting full 40s together.
Natasha, a couple of these close losses the last few weeks. Have you noticed any themes late in these games that is something you guys need to correct to get over the hump in these clutch time ones?
Absolutely. Keeping them off the free throw line. And just taking care of the ball at the end of the stretch. That's the main thing that we've been talking about over and over again.
Natasha, at the end of the game, you had chances. Does it feel like this one got away a little bit? That you still could have survived this and pulled it off and felt a little better about the night?
I wouldn't say it got away from us. We had opportunities to win this game, but at the end of the day, we just got to stay consistent. That's the main thing: stay consistent and just do the things that we've been doing in the past couple games that we won, and limited our fouls.
Yes, for either of you, the past 2 games you held, the Lynx and the Aces under 60 points, and then today obviously it was 89. Just what was different defensively, or what did the Sparks do well?
We fouled too much, for one. We got to be better with personnel defense so that when a play breaks down and players start to go one-on-one, it doesn't matter what people's records are at that point. Like, there are scorers on all teams in this league, and we got to understand, like, what they want to do, what's their go-to, and don't let them do that. Make them do something different. Our rotations and our reds, like, our trap-in, wasn't great, and, we were a step slow, I think, on a lot of stuff, and not as physical as we were those other 2 games you mentioned.
Tasha, in that fourth, they shot it well going into that fourth quarter, but in the fourth, all but one of their field goals was inside the paint. What would you have liked to maybe see to correct that and kind of keep them out and having more difficult shots?
Like Sid said, being more physical. we let them do whatever they wanted to do on the offensive end, and instead of us dictating where we want them to be at, and they took full advantage of it, and they scored. Well, they outscored us in the paint this game. So our main focus for the next game is just make sure we're just being physical and just keeping that for 40 minutes through the whole game.